Welcome to my February TBR, where everything is made up and the points don't matter because truly I have no idea what I'm doing. I have a small pile of stuff that I feel pretty confident I will want to get through in February, but other than that, I don't know what I'm in the mood for. There's pretty much nothing on my physical TBR that's really grabbing me, and I'm trying to focus on grabbing from my physical TBR, especially the oldest stuff on my physical TBR. So I'm kind of winging this. Who knows how much I'll stick to this? Let's jump in. As I've mentioned in some other videos, I'm doing a writing semester from January through April. Part of that is required reading, so I've got some writing craft books on my TBR for February. So we've got The Emotional Craft of Fiction by Donald Moss, Shut Up and Write the Book by fellow YouTuber Jenna Moreci, and Zen and the Art of Writing by Ray Bradbury. These are two that I own that I'm trying to read. This one is one that I came across as a recommendation that sounded useful and compelling, so I picked it up. And since all three of these are fairly short, I went ahead and added another one that I'd been wanting to pick up but didn't fit in anywhere in the semester, and that is How to Write a Mystery, edited by Lee Child. I believe this is a collection of essays on mystery writing. One of my projects that I'm currently working on is a mystery, and I've never tried to write a mystery before, so I thought that this guidance could be useful. So as long as I am a responsible student to myself, all four of these should get read this month. I'm also still hoping to finish my rereads of How to Break Up with Your Phone and Digital Minimalism. I just totally forgot these existed in January, even though I was planning to read them and halfway through this one. As previously mentioned, these are both guides, discussions on how to have a healthier relationship with your phone, the internet, devices. I've read them both before. I'd recommend them both. I am still mostly off of social media, so these are useful. Now we're getting to the rereads. Like I mentioned in my January TBR, I'm trying to go back and reread some of my favorite books that I haven't read in a long time, just to confirm that I do still love them. I mentioned The Secret History and The Chimes in my January TBR, didn't get around to them, still very much planning on getting to these. These are probably the first two books I'm gonna read in February. The quintessential Dark Academia, a dystopian novel set in London where music is a form of communication and people cannot retain memories. Longlisted for the Booker in 2015. Excellent, both of these 5-star reads from me in the past. Hopefully that's still the case. And then I have another two rereads that I'm less optimistic about remaining 5-star reads in 2025. And those are Night Film and Ready Player One. I believe I read this in 2015, and I remember being very affected by this book. It's kind of a mixed media novel, and it's also got a very heavy sense of paranoia to it, and I found myself feeling that paranoia during the 4 or so days that I was really immersed in this novel. I think Marisha Pessl just came out with a new book, and I have not read it, but I have read all three of her books that were previously out, and I've enjoyed all of them. And this one has always been my favorite, so I'd like to see if it's still my favorite. And then, of course, Ready Player One. I think we all know what this is. I have not read this since 2016, and I am a little skeptical about it holding up because I feel like I've seen some criticisms of it in the year since I read it that I might not have been equipped to pick up at the time that I read this, so we'll see. A lot of my reading lately has been classic mysteries or lit fic or nonfiction, and so I feel like I could use a more fun novel thrown in the mix, and this will definitely fit the bill. So sorry if I blazed through those a little bit quickly. I mentioned a lot of those in my January TBR, and I didn't want to spend too much time going back through them, and now I want to get into the meat and potatoes of the new books that I have not read before that are just for funsies, because this is where we hit the wild, wild west, because I truly don't know what I'm doing. The easiest place to start is with the library books I've got checked out because they have a time limit on them, and my hold for the audiobook on this one just came in the other day, so I'm definitely going to get to this very soon. The Picture of Dorian Gray. I also obviously have the ebook checked out from the library. I feel like over the past few years, I've just seen a huge influx in people saying that this is their favorite novel of all time. It's always been one of the classics that I was kind of most intrigued by, but I never had to read it for school, and I never got around to it in my free time, and so I just never picked it up. And now I'm just really curious as to, is it really as good as everyone seems to say it is. I basically only know the general gist of this, that there's a painting that is attached to the subject of the painting in the way that the painting will age and decay while the subject of the painting continues to stay young, and it's dependent on, I guess, his debauchery, I guess. Truly all I know about this book, but I'm intrigued. And then I've also got We Used to Live Here checked out. This is one I've been hearing a lot of good things about. It's like a 2024, I think, horror release that sounds really intriguing. There's a couple renovating this house, I believe, and the former owners show up and want to take a look inside, and then chaos ensues. I love a book where I can just say, weird things happen. And this seems to be that book along the same lines as House of Leaves. So I'm very intrigued to pick this one up. I did say that I think I'll probably pick up Secret History or The Chimes first, but it's actually probably going to be this one since it's due back soon, I think. The last one I've got checked out of the library right now, I'm less certain about, but we'll see. This is inclusive cataloging. Allow me to be incredibly nerdy for a few seconds. This is, as it says, a book about how to catalog books more inclusively. Hi, hello, I am a library cataloger. I believe this is a collection of articles and essays dealing with different aspects of cataloging and how to be more inclusive in said cataloging. That is something that we are always working on at the library I work at, always striving toward, always trying to improve, and it's something that libraries are woefully behind in when it comes to subject headings and terms used. And so this is one that I saw come in at the library and I was like, oh, definitely putting a hold on that. We'll see if I get to it this month. If not, I will just renew it and probably read it one of the following months. So returning to my own physical TBR, I am trying to read some of the books I've had on my physical TBR the longest, and I've got a stack of those next to me. Some of them I mentioned last month as well. First up is The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle by Haruki Murakami. I just read 2 Murakami books in January. I still feel like I could read some more. This is the one that I've had the longest and also the one that I am most intrigued to pick up. This one is talked about as like his magnum opus, as his best book, and I can't wait to give it a read. Don't ask me what it's about. I don't know. The best way to describe most Murakami novels is, I don't know, weird stuff happens. Along that same line, I've got Ghost written by David Mitchell. I mentioned this one for January as well. This one's just carrying over. I always get Murakami vibes from David Mitchell premises, and I've never actually read one of his books, so this is in my plans to be the first one I read of his. I'd actually forgotten that this next one was one of the oldest books on my TBR, and then I looked at it on my shelf and I was like, oh, I've had that since like 2016 probably. Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. One of the more beautiful books I own, and also one that I definitely bought just based on the cover and the hype, but then became very intriguing to me later. This seems to have very similar vibes to The Starless Sea, which is one of my favorite books of all time. I am definitely very intrigued by it, and I've been meaning to pick it up for ages, and I keep forgetting that I have it. So we're putting it on the TBR, we'll see what happens. I once again don't want to dwell on these because I did bring these up in my January TBR as well. Kim Ji-young, born 1982, and then 2 Poirot novels. These 2 are 2 of the oldest books on my physical TBR, and I think I checked out audiobooks from the library for both of them, so I definitely could read them this month if I wanted to. Another of the oldest books on my TBR, which I will have had for nearly 10 years this spring, Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. In 2015 and 2016, I devoured Brandon Sanderson books. And then I think since then, I haven't really picked up any of his books, and I don't know why. I still have several of them, and I've had this one for nearly 10 years, and I feel like I need to finally get around to it. I started this book way back in the day. I think I read it as like part of a first chapter, try a chapter challenge, and so if I remember correctly, it follows a prince who is like exiled to this city, I think called Elantris, where magic has died. That is the extent of what I know about this book. But I've never not enjoyed anything by Brandon Sanderson, so surely it's going to be great. And then my last 2 are books that I always associate with each other in my brain, even though I'm fairly certain their premises have nothing to do with each other. I think it's just the fact that they were very highly acclaimed and very well reviewed, and they have similar color schemes. The first of these is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. When I read the premise of this, it feels like a Murakami novel if it were more fantastical, like a collection of characters where weird things are happening to them, but like actual fantasy instead of just kind of like a little bit of surrealism. And then the other one, like I said, I think the only similarities I'm seeing between these are the color scheme and the fact that they're highly reviewed. Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. Completely separate from The City We Became, I'm pretty sure that this is a like lit fic, more like romance-based story, not fantastical at all as far as I know. I'm just gonna blame the color scheme. I'm gonna blame the pretty colors. I've heard nothing but fantastic things about this book, and I'm definitely very intrigued to check it out, even though I have, once again, a very vague idea about what this is about. And that is my February TBR. As with January, certainly overambitious, certainly will not read all of these books, so let's predict how much I will actually read, although I was wrong last time. Definitely these four, I succeeded in keeping up with my assigned reading for January. I expect to do the same in February. Also, almost certainly all four of these, if not just these three, but I really want to get to these this month, so I'm pretty confident in these. And also probably the Wind Up Bird Chronicle as well, given that I'm in a bit of a Murakami mood. And then I think the only other two I'm actually going to put my money on are Dorian Gray and We Used to Live Here, because they're both ones that I really want to read, and I have a time limit because they're checked out from my library. Who knows though, with my luck I might hit a reading slump mid-February and just stop reading for 4 months. It's happened before, it might happen again, who knows. And I also can't write off the possibility that we'll get a really cool book into work and I will want to check it out immediately and read it. It's happened before, it might happen again. This is the curse of being a library cataloger. You don't get into it unless you read books, and then you just are inundated by all the books you could ever want to read, and you definitely don't have the time or resources to read all of them. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know down in the comments what you think of these books. Have you read any of them? Are they any good? Are they terrible? Let me know. I am gonna try to keep up the wrap-ups and TBRs as we continue through the year. I don't know if I'll make it all year, but we will see. So if you do want to see my February wrap-up when it drops at the end of the month, make sure you're subscribed. Hit the bell to make sure that you get notifications for when I post it. Like the video if you liked it, leave a comment if you're so inclined, and I will see you next time. Bye!